My name is Kara Nasardi, and I'm a licensed therapist, EMDR therapist, consultant, and trainer. And today I'd like to talk about the difference between big T and little t trauma. So there are two types of trauma. There's big T and little t trauma. And the reason why we have these different categories is to help us understand the different types of distressing experiences that can leave an impact on us as human beings. So let's start with big T trauma. We can think of big T trauma as a tidal wave. So big T trauma refers to those major traumatic events that generally involve some type of serious injury, violence, or threats to life. So we can think of things like natural disasters, serious accidents, physical or sexual assault, war or terrorism, or any sudden loss of a person that we love, or loss of a part or an aspect of our life, our mobility, our security, whatever that happens to be, sudden and unexpected loss. So while everyone experiences trauma differently, big T traumas often result in those big, intense emotional responses and reactions. And these are the experiences that will, on the heels of them, profoundly impact your mental, emotional, and physical health, the way that you move through the world and the way that you function. So big T traumas are like tidal waves that hit without warning, and they leave you feeling overwhelmed and struggling to recover, kind of get back on your feet without support. Now we're going to switch to little t trauma, and we can think of little t trauma as a slowly overflowing bathtub. Because little t trauma isn't a big tidal wave that hits without warning. Little t trauma involves ongoing exposure to less extreme but still distressing events. So we can think of things like emotional abuse or neglect, discrimination or bullying, chronic illness, financial stress could be another. So any of these, and this is not a complete list, but just to give you an idea of these small but ongoing distressing events that can be traumatizing. So they're not life-threatening, but these little t experiences add up over time. There's an accumulative effect that can lead to anxiety, depression, or any other mental or physical health issues. It impairs your functioning, but over time. So we can think of little t traumas like drops of water that are slowly filling a bathtub. But at some point, our system can no longer tolerate it, right? Over time, that tub overflows and the stress becomes overwhelming and debilitating. And the final thing I want to say in this conversation about the difference between big T and little t trauma is that trauma is very personal. And I often tell people, like, this is not a competitive sport, right? So a few things to remember. One is that everyone responds to trauma in their own way. Big T trauma for you, maybe small t for someone else, and that's perfectly okay. And that experiencing trauma doesn't make you weak. It doesn't mean you're defective, right? Healing from trauma, think about trauma as a brain injury. So just like recovering from a physical injury, healing from trauma is oftentimes going to take patience, time, and in most cases, support, help from other people, right? And so I hope this has been helpful to you to kind of understand traumatic experiences, maybe understand why small things maybe are impacting you. But if you'd like more information, do feel free to get in touch. Here are my ways to contact. I run the EMDR Education and Training Center. You can reach me by email or on the socials. My name is Kara Nasardi. Thanks so much for listening. Have a great day.